we are stuck with a very rich first 3 decades of the ANC.
Yeah.
I'm suspecting this is one of, if not, the foremost generation.
Yeah.
And not coincidentally, when they get attacked, criticized by the youth leaguers of the 40s, we almost forget how seriously talented, but also that these were not one-dimensional people.
Yeah.
They were involved in a formation of something that is not quite a political party.
That's true.
This thing they are forming is not quite, but they are involved in so many things. They are newspaper editors.
Yeah.
They are bishops.
And lawyers.
They are lawyers. They are professors. They are presiding over surgeries but they're in the beginning of a modern cosmopolitan society that is forming amongst the Africans. In any way, my question is around this idea that this is not a political party.
No, it was not a political party, at least definitely not in the way we understand political parties
today.
I mean, they are
and certainly not in the way political parties already at the time I understood in the West.
Is in the West, definitely not. Perhaps even not in the manner that the Indian Congress, say for instance in India, this was in the first instance, what they were establishing was an institution that will represent the interests, the aspirations of the African people, the parliament of the African people, because there is, in a sense, a context, and the context, as we discussed before, is the formation of the Union of South Africa, right? It's interesting. When Seme issues a Clarion call in October 1911, the title of his Clarion call is A Native Union. Right? That is the title. It says A Native Union.
So they were establishing a country.
They are establishing in many ways a country. And it links, by the way, to the brief conversation that we
Which means, Prof, at some point you're going to have to write the Union of South Africa and the Native
Union. And the Native Union.
The Native Union.
But what was the project? What is the political? Because it was not only a political project in the narrow sense in which we understand politics. These are people that are trying to bring to birth a modernity. Right? That is how big it was. An African modernity. That is the reason why they call themselves the New Africans in many ways. That what they were not just trying to take over power. They were trying to introduce something fundamentally different from what had existed in the past in African societies, but also from what European settlers had brought to the fore, a new African modernity. But the formation of this parliament of the African people, the South African National Native Congress, that had 2 houses, the upper house and the lower house, right? It comes in a particular institutional context too, that they are not just only forming this organization, this political institution that will represent the interests and aspirations of the African people. They are also establishing other institutions that will represent these aspirations and the vision of these African people. Some are breaking away from the churches that had incubated and gave birth, in a sense, to their existence. These mission. So in the late 1800s, you have the emergence of what white people called Ethiopianism. These independent African churches. I mean, they are emerging. There is the Tembu Church. I mean, there is the Ethiopian Church. They are also linking up with African Americans and bringing and establishing branches of churches that can be linked of the AME,
Yes.
right? They are bringing all of that. So this is and that is the reason why, frankly, in my humble opinion, this is the greatest generation, of Africans who have had. Because think of a Sol Plaatje. Think of Sol Plaatje. In 1916, he publishes a book, A Native Life. He's writing novels. He's a Renaissance man. And I think really these are Renaissance men and women. And I think given the name of this podcast, it is essential to say this. There's an African Renaissance in a sense that they are trying to bring into being. For almost a decade, they have been agitating for the establishment of a college, of a university that will serve
the natives,
the natives, these African people. And one of the central figures is John Tengo Jabavu, whose son, DDT Jabavu, becomes the first black person to be appointed a professor at a South African university, who then teaches ZK Matthews, who become the second black person to be a professor. So there are churches, there are schools, and there's a university. Then there's this parliament that should bring together all Africans from Southern Africa to discuss and determine the fate of Africans. Now, I do want to say just one little thing before I keep quiet about this, because I think there's something singularly significant about Pixley, for all his flaws. As when he became President General of the ANC from 1940. Because I think this modernity, this breadth of vision, in a sense, it is encapsulated in this man, Pixley Isaka Seme. He is the person who brings together the traditional and the modern and says this new modernity, this modernity that we are bringing into being, it can only exist if you bring a queen, a chief, an educate, a professor, a doctor, a medical doctor, a bishop, if you bring them
and an industrial worker.
Yes, an industrial worker.
Trade unionist.
By the way, when he becomes president of the ANC in 1932, he issues a blueprint of the economic empowerment. Of 1932.
In
1932. He says we should build our own shops. We should have farms. We should all of those things.
The youth are crucial in terms of empowerment.
He says we should have Congress clubs, and those Congress clubs should be the center of our social and economic lives. So I really do think that this generation and the leaders, the first 5 leaders of the ANC, Dube, Makgato, Mahabane, Gumede, Pixley, who are people who were there at the founding of the ANC. What the common thread amongst them is this idea, that they had at the founding of the ANC in 1912. And their arguments is over this vision. are you working towards the realization of the vision? When we formed this organization in 1912. So, it is, and remember that these guys did not have much.
Let's push the Renaissance a little bit, Professor Ndlovu, before you come in. Remember, I think it's 120 years this year since Seme's
historic
Renaissance of Africa,
regeneration of
Africa speech,
yes,
which was said in
April 1906,
April the 6th.
Yeah.
Are you just take us through that and the Clarion call?
And those two things are connected. Remember, when Seme gives this speech and how he starts it, I'm an African. Now, this is 1906. This is New York City. This is a young African who had gone to the United States to go to high school when he was 14 years old. Goes to this big metropolis, world metropolis. He's standing in front of all of these largely white student body. And he boldly declares,
I'm in Africa.
I'm an African. He says there is a civilization, an African civilization that I'm proud of, that I'm not afraid to present to the world. So this is the vision. Where does this come from? I mean, Seme is also influenced by people like Bladen, right? Seme is talking about African personality. He's influenced by African Americans who had given more or less similar ideas, similar speeches in the 1860s. Henry Sylvester Williams, I mean, who came to Cape Town, he considers Pixley Seme his friend. So all of these ideas, South Africa is at the center of all of these ideas.
He was worldly.
It's worldly.
When he speaks of the African, he speaks about the African.
He speaks about the
international
African
global stage condition.
I mean, when you read that speech, the regeneration of Africa, he is not talking about South Africa or Southern Africa. He's starting all the way from Egypt. He goes to the Congo. His vision of this African Renaissance is not a geographical vision. He says, as Africans, we've made significant contributions to human civilization, and he backs it up. And so when he comes back, in the practical sense, he wants this vision to be realized in South Africa. He says, as Africans, we need to come together, not to gain political power, not just only to gain political power, to give birth to this vision, I mean, of the regeneration of Africa, of a new African modernity. And it's not just only him. All of these members of this great generation, I've mentioned Solbaki, I've mentioned some of these first lawyers, I mean, the medical doctors, all of these, the preachers, the farmers, I mean, they are buying farms. They are buying farms. I mean, part of the reason why we have the Natives Land Act, it is partly a response to Africans who are buying farms. White people say we can't deal with these Africans who are putting together money to buy farms. They are entrepreneurs. That is the vision of this regeneration of Africa, of this African Renaissance. Its institutional expression
Is the ANC.
is the ANC.
And the ANC, not as a political party,
The ANC
as a plane to a union of the natives,
a union,
which
because,
is a modern entity with a geography, with borders, with a policy, and even foreign relations policy, solidarity.
Yes. Seme says the
So I mean, without drawing you to the present,
yeah.
what then get constituted in 1994? In essence,
Yeah.
and I'm going to come to you, Prof, because another important movement in Europe, in the world, is the communist movement, which is a heritage as well of the oppressed of the world.
Yeah. Yeah.
But if the Clarion call was a native union,
Yeah.
if Seme's call was a native union that does all these things, then the mission of the ANC, as conceptualized here, is 1994, which should have enabled these institutions that were
yes.
constituting the union.
No, that in a sense that is true, because there is this.
I mean, what comes after 1994 as the ANC, the party, is a residue
of this broader movement, of this broader
union.
Yeah, it is.
I'm fascinated by this claim of when Seme is imagining in his head what must be formed is a union.
It's a union. He says,
which stretches up to
all the way.
The Congo.
All the way. He says we are one people. That speech, that opening address, he says, and in a sense, you could say, if anything, if there is one thing that the ANC has given to South Africa, and especially to Africans, is this idea that we are one people. That was at the core of what this parliament of the people, when he said it is the parliament of the people, he's not saying it's the parliament of my friends or of my neighbors. He says this is the parliament of Africans. And remember, who's there is people from all over.
Absolutely. It's possibly the only liberation movement that was formed. Can you think of anything in the continent?
Let's say
in whose formation almost half
itself,
almost half of the continent
is there.
In fact,
is forming it.
Yes. In fact, to push forward the ideas that Prof. Ngqulunga is talking about, the practicalities of it. If you look at the history, when he said, like he was away, he was still overseas, he is in touch in terms of the diaspora with Du Bois.
Yeah.
He's working
Sol Black.
Yes.
Yeah. He's working with W.E. Du Bois.
Yes. Yeah. And also the ANC is part of the Pan-African Congress. It's there in France with Du Bois in 1921.
Yes, true.
Yeah. So they're there. So the international politics and internationalism
in 1921.
They go to the Pan-African Congress and then in 1921 it's in Paris. But as my colleague has mentioned, in Henry Sylvester Williams is also regarded as a founding father of those around the 1900s. But a South African was part of that.
Yeah, South African
woman, a black woman.
Yeah.
Kinloch. Yeah. She's part of that. Actually, she's the one who influences Williams to even come to South Africa, but she plays an important role in terms of that. So that's why, therefore, it's not surprising that Plaatje makes it a point that we don't lose touch with that. And then if you look at the Treaty of Versailles, so you remember when the Afrikaners went there during the conference itself, our leader said, they are not going to represent us. We are going
to send our own...
They sent delegations to Versailles so that when the Afrikaners claim that they should be given a space and the fact that they want to have a stake in terms of ruling the Union of South Africa, not only the English, our people were there saying the same thing. To find out what happened afterwards, you find out that the British Premier was pressed in the sense that he had to organize a meeting with the ANC delegations. And when Lloyd George met them in London, this idea of diaspora and an African Renaissance in terms of politics was also represented by the fact that when they went there, they were also accompanied by black British leaders who were part of the diaspora. So the Prime Minister was even surprised by the fact that he can speak with African leaders who bring in some of his subjects that he cannot meet separately to discuss their own lead. So that's how rich it was in terms of, in fact, that's also a continuation of the politics of the formation of the Soviet Union, because we had to engage with the Soviet Union and understand what it represented in terms of world politics, because we do know about the other side, because there are other people who colonized South Africa. This is a new idea, even though I spoke about labor aristocracy in terms of the foundation of the Communist Party in South Africa, that it was, if you remember, their major sort of catch word. They were talking about the white workers. You know, they were not talking about workers.
Yes.
So,
but I do think we have mapped out, because the African as a subject is already an international subject category.
Yes.
It has a condition occasioned by both colonization and slavery. Long when the first sort of modern republics emerge, Haiti is there. So the ideas of African nationalism have that history. They are fully developed, it could be said, including the French defeat a monarchy. The Americans are defeating a colonizer. I mean, in a way, America is the first post-colonial country. The Haitians are defeating slave owners, represented by two monarchies as well as the bourgeoisie of the New World. Now I want to bring in, another big movement in Europe, not in Russia, Prof. In Britain, is the socialist movement. The big meetings of the International Organization of Workers are taking place in Britain. Britain is the industrial, center of the 1700s, as well as the 1800s.
And Karl Marx.
And Marx is there, Engels is there, including Paris. Kropotkin is there, and all of that. My question is there any interaction, if any, so that maybe we understand it not to be a phenomenon of the 1920s? Because these are well-traveled Africans you've just, who gather in 1912. These are worldly Africans.
That's true.
Was there any interaction before that with socialist and communist ideas that you traced?
Well, it's not necessarily them, because that will bring us to the issue that we might argue that there was nothing new through communalism as practiced by African societies. So that's why, therefore.
But these ideas of 1920,
that's what I'm coming. That's
so
what
to speak.
That's what I'm coming. That's where I'm coming to, in the sense that, therefore, you find out that we have a huge question, the so-called division between the nationalist and the communist. But then the membership is overlapping, in the sense that those Africans have become members of the Communist Party. The argument is that, well, we interpret communism according to our own practical conditions. This is not a new, idea through communalism. The difference is between us and them we don't kill our kings. They killed their king, the Tsar. We see a continuity with our system because for us, unlike the Tsar, what the king owns, the monarchy owns here, belongs to us as a people. Is our symbol to represent. With the Tsar, it's the opposite. It's the opposite. So amongst them as members of the Communist Party, that became a heated debate, between the so-called nationalists like Seme and then Gumede, a communist. But they belong to the same organization, the ANC. One has networks and links with the Communist Party of South Africa. And he even goes to an extent saying that when he went to the Soviet Union, he saw a New Jerusalem. And then the nationalists say, hey, this one is a sellout. He's selling us to the
that Gumede.
Yeah. We just have to deal with him because, as you said, this is a new movement. But to Seme and others, it's not a new movement. We are for our monarchies. We're not going to destroy our monarchies because there is an extension of responsibilities. But Gumede is more or less like the Bolsheviks. If we are not aware, if we don't take charge, the next thing is going to call for the abolition of monarchies here in South Africa. So then it falls.
It's interesting because it's in the resolutions of the Second International that caution to the
that
ANC.
is the Comintern.
Yes, in the Comintern. They are very clear. There's a caution to say
outdated
nationalists and the chiefs inside the ANC, tribal chiefs inside the ANC who, must be cautioned in terms of their reactionary. It is there. Yeah. But I was wondering if there could have been a different crossing of paths. So maybe there's a fundamental project, a new project for historical research. It doesn't make sense. The maps that you've just drawn, Scotland, the United States, New York,
Versailles, Paris,
that they
were all over.
Yes, that they wouldn't have come across, for instance, the Communist Manifesto.
Yeah.
Or they couldn't have come across communist intellectuals within the African American community, as well as the African British community. Because by the 1800s, there's a proper naturalized African population in the West.
Yeah.
It's not, when I'm thinking about, for instance, the example of someone like Sol Plaatje. It's not possible that they wouldn't have come across.
No, they are there. They are there. It's just that we're quite aware in 1917. We just been crying when we say it's 1921 is the communist. No, there's a socialist movement.
Yeah, no, sorry, the International Socialist League.
It's formed in 1917. It's there, it exists.
But I'm saying these Africans busy with the project of the Native Union.
Yes.
Surely, it's my curiosity anyway. Surely the first people can't be these South African white communists like Banting and all of them. Surely it can't be them, including the phenomena of the Russian Revolution.
Yeah.
It's late. It's 1917. That's like these chaps have been busy with progressive liberation ideas at an international scale.
Yeah.
And Lenin is also very late in the ideas of communism.
If you look at Abantu Batu, there's a paper founded in 1912. It was an internationalist in approach. There's a section which deals with international affairs, and also that section also focused on the issues and socialist, ideas that are developing, but they have a certain preference as a newspaper. It has an ideological shift. Remember also, it's easy for that newspaper to be banned here if it pushes hard, because it's a no-no.
I'm going somewhere which I suspect you all know. The claim about these chaps and their interaction, firstly, I mean, this Gumete, Seme split, which results in Gumete being voted out in 1930 out of the presidency of the ANC. And he goes, actually, you will speak to that in a moment, to if they fled with the idea of opening an ANC equivalent that would take on the ANC. But my point, my little sense is, there's this long enduring claim that it is communists or communist ideas or interaction with communist ideas that opens the ANC up to the type of theater or framework of struggle which you were describing and associating with the ICU, for instance. Mass-based movement. Is that it's at that interaction with those communist ideas. But that up until, Gumede and then later, a proper formal organizational alliance, what radicalizes the ANC. And because my curiosity is, that's a bit late.
That's what I'm saying. I do not agree with that statement. I think Prof. Ngqulunga is giving us the answer. The very fact that, as a people, as leadership, you can come up with the idea of forming a parliament of the people in 1911. That's enough for me to suggest that you were not radicalized by a movement that has not yet been formed. It means we are ahead of thinking about new ideas.
Okay, let's delve into the communists then. The communists are black.
Late 1920s.
Laguma.
Late.
Well, in the
not
teens,
in the formation. Not
before when Gumede and Laguma travel, they were already communists who were black.
That's true.
Before the formation of the Communist Party, it would seem to me, in the clubs and the reading groups around the dock, around Cape Town, for an example. A history that I think someone like Tibedi.
Yes, Tibedi, Dube, Tonjeni, Kaile, who became the GS. No, look, I mean, they were Africans. Quite a number of them were there and quite influential in the communist part of South Africa. There is absolutely no doubt about it.
So you see these characters you are mentioning.
Yes.
Some of them, Chris, this is the thing of dual membership, of overlap of membership. Yes. They are both members of the Natives Congress, and they are active in socialist circles.
Yeah, that is the essence of Moses Kotane's Kratok letter in 1934. When Moses Kotane in 1934 says, we shouldn't aspire for socialism or communism as it exists in Europe. we should root it in the conditions in the African continent.
Based on that,
Yeah.
Eastern Cape, he was looking at...
That's the reason why it is called the Craddock letter in 1934, because it says this Chinese wall between African nationalism and communism, and the disdain with which some of the communities, especially white communists, looked at the African nationalist cause is quite problematic. And he then presents this interaction, especially of black communists in Craddock, with workers, some of whom were not members of the Communist Party. So he makes that argument. But I mean, the idea that the ANC was not involved in mass struggles is not completely true. I mean, if you think of a figure like Charlotte McClark, there is a women's march, I mean, in the Free State. I mean, as early as, 1914, anti-pass marches. And immediately after, in the aftermath of the First World War, the ANC leadership, especially here in the Transvaal, is engaging with the struggles of sanitary workers, I mean, municipal workers, and they are trying to get involved. And some of them...
Are you... What's the area called now? Fidas or... What's this?
Here in Ontario.
Yeah, it had a different name, Friede or something like that.
Yes.
Yeah,
So
they were massive. Those.
Yes, I mean, what?
So let's just clarify. You are saying that the idea that protests and marches and that frame of engaging in the struggle
do not always...
that you are saying ANC was not the gentleman's club as we get to be told.
I mean, if somebody says those forms of protests were brought by the Communist Party, then they must...
Or the Youth League.
No.
Yeah, look, I mean, as I say, there is
historically.
There is what we cannot run away from is that a significant section of the leadership of the ANC at the time was, we could say, a middle-class leadership in a sense, and that a big part of its disagreement with the Communist Party was partly a reflection of its own class interests. But there was a lot more to it. What was the project? What was the project of this Parliament of the People? What was the heart of this African modernity? I mean, at the heart of African nationalism, in the first instance, as Pixley, Isaka, Seme said in 1912, was to bring about a united African nation. It was quite essential for those African leaders that Africans be united, who are one people, as I have said before. But it was also self-determination. I mean, one of the arguments they had with white liberals, I mean, of the South African Institute of Race Relations, which was established in 1929, was over this question of self-determination, that as Africans, we can think for ourselves. Yeah. We can craft our own vision, right? You cannot just come and tell us what we can do, what we cannot do, and all of that. And one of the criticism of communism by African nationalist leaders was that it was a foreign ideology. And I don't think it is a small thing. That it was a foreign...
That communism is a foreign ideology.
It was a foreign ideology.
Yes.
That it was... But also think about expropriating land and property. You have a people who just a few decades before had been dispossessed of their land violently. And then now you come up with an ideology where you say a fundamental aspect of that ideology, like is taking property and all of that. They say, wait a minute here. We just lost property. We have just lost property here. And then suddenly you come around and say we must join a movement that will take... I mean, there was an element of class bias. We cannot, I don't think it would be historically inaccurate to say that. I mean, Pixley, Kasega, Isaka, Seme, these are people who are pulling together resources to buy land, right? They are pulling resources together to buy land. He presents a vision of black economic empowerment that says black people must build their own industries, right? Because they thought black people were capable. That was the vision. You could say it had its limitations. Perhaps it was not taking into consideration the economic arrangements, the power relations, but that was the vision that they had.
And it does it anyway, because they own such land in Mpumalanga, I think.
Yes, yes, in Dakar.
It does it.
Yes.
Yeah,
yes,
I mean,
yes.
Africans are buying land not just in everywhere.
But you do have a growing layer of a sort of new subject category associated with capitalist industrialization in its, form as covered in Karl Marx's critique, that you've got this worker.
Yeah.
This worker is increasingly becoming the majority.
Yes.
In the rural and the urban. You do have a significant peasant community.
Yeah.
But Johannesburg is full of industrial workers.
It is industrial. And that is, in a sense, you could say perhaps that is, that was the witness of that generation that I've characterized as a great generation, that this industrial worker, there's an interesting name actually, we call them a lighter. They see them as threatening in a sense. Dube sees the ICU that is led by Catalan champion in a sense as threatening. Not just because in as much as they were fighting this system that had excluded them, I don't think that they were calling for a disruption, a massive rupture of sort. I mean, they thought they could...
I mean, to the ideas associated here, maybe let's go through them quickly. Workers of the world unite, meaning workers must run the factories. They are the true producers.
Yeah.
And then a workers and peasant state.
Yeah.
Not very... something of a chief, of a lawyer, a medical doctor, might not feel accommodated in the proposition.
But also the idea, like as you said, on the land issue, you are a Labotsibeni, Queen Labotsibeni. The Swazis have been robbed of their land through concessions, right? And,
but yet the ICU is larger than membership, and it is, as you say, beginning to look to the ANC as a threat in terms of who is the true voice.
But it is not a revolutionary organization.
It's not.
It's a mass-based organization without a doubt, in a manner that the ANC at the time was not. In a sense, you could say the ICU in organizational sense perhaps was ahead of the ANC perhaps by a decade or two. But it is not a revolutionary. It is led by Clemens Kadali, for crying out loud. Like Clemens Kadali in 1924, when the ANC is discussing the contest between Jan Smuts and Herzog, he argues that the ANC should support Herzog of the Nationalist Party. It is led by AWG champion, could never be called revolutionary by any stretch of imagination. So while we present the ICU as a mass-based organization, it was definitely not a revolutionary organization, if anything that can be said. I think perhaps in ideological terms, what perhaps the ANC and perhaps even the ICU to an extent represented you could call maybe progressive African nationalism or Pan-Africanism of sorts.
Absolutely.
Yeah. But, and that was the argument that they had with Gumede.
That's what the fight was.
That is what the fight was. I'll leave it to Prof whether Gumede was a communist or not. I have huge doubts.
Yeah, no, he was not.
He was not.
He was not. He was at the right place at the right
time. Gumede was not a communist. Gumede was not a communist.
But Gumede believed in full cooperation.
Yes.
Of the nationalists with the communists. Because he saw
what we call alliance politics.
Yeah, no, that is
the alliance politics.
He must have seen something.
Don't begin
peculiar in Russia.
Don't begin with Kosat and whatever. They begin with him.
Yes. Okay, but something else happened to Gumede because the conference he attended is not the Comintern. The conference he attends is a conference against imperialism.
No, true. But remember that Gumede comes from South Africa, just one little thing, where there is racial segregation.
Yes.
He gets to Belgium, he gets to the Soviet Union. He sees a completely different world. That for a black man from South Africa would just have been unimaginable.
So, trace Gumede for us. I mean, the way you dig Seme. What was Gumede's history? What part of the country did he come from? What had defined his travels, education level, and
Gumede is an interesting figure, in a sense that perhaps unlike the Semes, the Dubes, and all of these guys, he does not have the international education experience. I mean, even though he had been born in Natal, right? You remember the split that I had spoken about between the coast and the inland. He comes from the inland, but then he studies in the eastern, what we call the Eastern Cape today. I mean, the first time he really gets involved in political activism is to fight the cause of the Zulu king of Dinu Zulu. Remember, Dinu Zulu has been sent to St. Helena. It's been sent to St. Helena. That is how he gets involved. But in his conduct, he is no different. He becomes a member of the Natal Native Congress. He's an entrepreneur to the extent that the businesses that they were running at the time could be called entrepreneurship. So he's not out of the mainstream in any way whatsoever. That his shift, in a sense, in the 1920s can only be explained, in a sense, perhaps partly by the emergence of the ICU, and perhaps we could call the radicalization of black politics.
Yes.
And then there is a Communist Party of South Africa that has been established in 1921. It is also drawing
and they are holding classes.
They are holding classes.
Yes.
They are suddenly, if you are a Gumede, you want to contest the Dubes of this world. I mean, suddenly now there is a base, a political base that you can ride on, I mean, to capture this thing. And the person that he defeats, it's not even Dube, it's Zacchaeus Mahabane, who was president of the ANC from 1924 to 1927 and came back later from 1937 to 1940. But what had happened in South Africa in the...
Mahabane is a reverend, isn't it?
Yes, he's a reverend from Kronstadt. So, I mean, what had happened in South Africa, the radicalization of black politics in the aftermath of the war because of inflation and all of the First World War. So that did change, in a sense. It did influence the politics, the broad African nationalist politics. I mean, because suddenly there was an alternative of sorts within the broad movement. That is the wave that Gumede rides that takes him into the presidency of the ANC in 1927. But his presidency does not last because it gets contested, by what is called the old guard of the ANC. That says the ANC now that you represent is not the ANC that was founded in 1912. It was not founded for a foreign ideology called communism that wants to take land, property, and then kill our kings.
And set them on a silver platter.
Oh, man.
Okay. I guess then that brings us to Seme.
Yeah.
Only now, the founder of the ANC takes over the ANC. When the ANC's president almost comes from the Soviet Union and is in full cooperation with the Bantings and the Larui. Seme says, no, over my dead body. And he contests him.
Yes.
But only now.
In the most contentious.
This is 20 years.
Yeah, almost about 18 years after the formation of
the formation of the ANC.
Yeah.
I just have to ask, what is it that Pixley, was he because he was young or he wasn't ambitious? Why 18 years after the formation of the ANC was he only interested in being its president? When everybody else before him had contested the presidency of the ANC, President General, so fiercely.
Well, at the formation of the ANC, if I can say something briefly, I'll let the Prof come. Pixley was 29 going for 30 years.
Yes.
So he was quite young.
Okay. So he was conscious of this fact.
Yeah, but he was also quite ambitious too. He had other bigger things to think about. Think about...
Like get married. He was married already.
Yeah, but think what Pixley gets married in 1915. But think what Pixley...
Wait, so in 1912 he wasn't?
He wasn't. He got married in 1915.
Within a monarch.
Yeah, well, he lost his wife.
Yeah, I don't think you could have been even the SG of the ANC.
Yeah, he lost his wife
without a wife in
those. But he just said...
In 1912.
But remember that the interim constitution, he had written it himself. I'm sure he could have inserted a clause that your marital status didn't.
He might have, but I'm just saying the group in the rule.
Yeah, there's some of them, they were quite...
a bit conservative. That
that's true. But think what Pixley does in 1912 alone. Because there's a reason why he's such a fascinating and a historical figure. So he's at the forefront of the formation of the ANC that gets formed in 1912. He starts a newspaper the same year with the assistance of the Swaziland Royal House, especially Queen Labotsibeni.
Don't forget the clubs also.
Yes, he does. And then that does not end there. The purchase of land, especially buying land, from the Afrikaners in the Northern Transvaal, that also happens in 1912. And he's running a law firm. At the heart of Johannesburg, he's arguing cases.
In the court.
In the courts. And they say white courts. In fact, one day when he argued a case at the Johannesburg Magistrate Court, it was during lunchtime, the city came to a standstill.
A black man.
Yeah, a black man. They say he was wearing a black suit with a snow white shirt, and he spoke like
everybody came to listen to this black lawyer,
and he spoke like an African American.
So the twang has always been there in the ANC.
In fairness to Pixley, he had left Africa.
He was in high school
when he was 14 years. When he was 14 years old.
Some of the people are twanging in the ANC. They never even left.
They never. No, I've heard that term. But Pixley got quite involved in a large number of things, because in 1912 he's elected the first Treasurer General of the ANC, right? It's quite interesting that when the ANC is mobilizing resources to send a delegation to England to protest the passing of the Natives Land Act, You'll think that the Treasurer General of the ANC will be at the forefront of doing that, but actually Pixley was not at the forefront of mobilizing resources to send a delegation because he was just too busy doing too many things. But it does not mean that he was not particularly interested in what was going on in the ANC. In fact, by 1916, because he was so fed up of Dube for whatever reason, he suggested that Sol Plaatje should become the President General of the ANC. And Sol Plaatje refused, to become the President General of the ANC. So in 1930, by 1928, Seme starts suggesting the formation of a different, I don't know whether to call it a party, but it is quite interesting. The name he proposed goes back to the issue of the union. It was basically that if they did not reclaim the ANC from Gumede, that in his view had been captured by the communists, they will have to form a new organization called, guess what? The African Union. That is what he proposes that they should establish. And this idea of an African Union was not new for Pixley, because as a student at Oxford, he meets with an African American called Alain Locke. And they were involved in a club called the Cosmopolitan Club. And Pixley was a treasurer once again of this club, and Alain Locke was the secretary. And he spent quite a lot of time in London. There too, he proposes that actually they should establish an organization, and the name of that organization, African Union. So when Pixley became president at the 1930 conference, which was so contentious. If you think now, perhaps it was an equivalent today of Pulukwane. That is April 1930. That is when he defeated, defeated Gumede by 14 votes. When that...
I don't think the differences in Pulukwane were that small.
No. Yeah. But also remember the number of delegates were not...
proportionally.
Proportionally, true.
The official delegates are now official.
And so for the delegates at that conference who elected Pixley...
There were 3 in the beginning.
Yes, it was an amazing...
3 members with one who withdrew.
There were 3 contestants for the presidency.
Yeah. But what happened?
Who was the third?
It was...
I've forgotten.
I remember.
But he jumped the first, withdrew and went to
Seme, yeah.
Because the vote was going to be split. Gumede might have remained.
Yeah, and they saw Gumede really as an existential threat.
To the union.
To the parliament.
Yes.
He was going to be the man who will bring about the killing of chiefs and the expropriation of property from the nation, from the African nation. All of that will go. And
needless to say, Gumede did win.
Well,
not the presidency, but I think he's...
Ideologically later
we will not in this episode, but we possibly have to measure if there was ever in the Freedom Charter and then in Morogoro, the strategy and tactics, if there was a proper reconciliation in a sense of synthesis of those ideas. Some people may think otherwise because you still get struggles in the ANC along those lines. PAC.
No, that's why we're doing them chronologically.
Yeah.
Because people simply think that they began at Morogoro.
Yes.
But you are saying...
Or they began in 1955, and then Sobukwe is coming back. But I do want to get into...
Seme now taking on.
Seme wins this conference.
Yeah.
But he kills the ANC, doesn't
Not
he?
necessarily.
But before he gets to that, because we do need to explain why the ANC got into such serious trouble under his
And there's economy.
leadership. I mean, one of the first things he does, I mean, when he became president, was to attempt to rewrite the constitution of the ANC and reasserted once again the positions of chiefs in the ANC. Because for Seme, it was fundamental. It was at the center of this African nation that he imagined, that had motivated even for the formation of the ANC in the first instance. Even when you read his speech, The Regeneration of Africa, he praises African institution. He talks about the Lekgotla in Botswana and all of those things. So he reasserts that. But his leadership style was quite problematic. And I have a sense that a big part of it had been influenced by his experience in the United States, where if you are president, you do not consider yourself an equal to members of your executive, because he literally ran the ANC in an authoritarian sense, I mean, so to speak. By 1932, just 2 years after his election, he was in deep
Fight.
crisis. I mean, like with the leadership of the ANC, like challenging him, saying the ANC is dead. Then in 1932, he drafts a pamphlet.
Yes.
And the title of the pamphlet, I wish I had brought it here, is The ANC Dead.
Yes.
Is the ANC dead?
Well, it can be if he's not, if he's in charge of it.
Of course, his answer was that the ANC is not dead. But I think there is a significant...
Actually, he requested the escort to reply.
Yes.
Before he,
Yeah,
before he answers.
But, I mean, there is something quite...
Who is in the ESCO?
Now...
Because the Secretary General...
T.D. Mweli Scott. And by the way, it's interesting because T.D. Mweli Scott is the Secretary General when Seme is there. But there is a personal tiff between them. That might have contributed because Seme's first wife became the wife of T.D. Mweli Scott. Under unfortunate circumstances that I would not go into in this podcast.
Why?
No.
That's not...
So,
not a historical
basically-
I mean, if he's advancing
No, that's not...
that there was a wife in between these
No,
two
look,
gentlemen.
listen. I mean, I'm not saying...
people go around bailing women.
I'm not
Look
saying
at
it,
us
I'm
sitting
not,
here,
I'm not saying it
blaming
was...
a wife
No,
for a
I'm
fight
not
between the
I'm
SG.
I'm not saying it was the primary reason. I'm not saying it was the primary reason there were problems. The primary reason for a fight in the leadership of the ANC was Seme's leadership style. But Seme's own private circumstances, and I suppose that is the point that I'm trying to make here, were rather unfortunate for him. Remember that he gets stripe of the role of Artemis, right? So Seme's professional life is in crisis, right? He has been struck of the role.
Because of?
Artemis, because of a case that involved Africans who lived in it is a small suburb now in Pretoria called Waverley. It's just next to N1 before you get to...
It's around Menlyn.
Yeah, you pass Menlyn before you get to what is called now Sefako Makato Ofrep.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, before you get it was used to be called Zambezi or something.
Zambezi. It's still called Zambezi.
Zambezi before you get there. So it was a farm, and in that farm were Africans who lived there. But there was they were trying to remove them. And so they were referred to Pixley to represent them as a famous
lawyer. Yeah. I know famous lawyers. Give me that book there. No. That's the man we are speaking
We were
about.
speaking about,
Yes.
yes. So there was that case. And so there was a bit of an issue about overcharging them and all of that. And so the Transvaal Society reported him, took him to court. And when the case, it was taken to the High Court. And so when he was supposed to appear, because he was not present. I mean, so he said he was not aware. It was postponed to the following day. He did not pitch up, and then the judge decided to strike him of the
Waverley Township.
Yeah, Waverley Township. Yes, of the role of attorneys. So I mean, can you think about this? I mean, so here is this celebrated African lawyer, the founder of the ANC, the President General of the ANC at the time. He struck off the role of attorneys, right? And so what he ended up doing was to spend a lot of time in what we call today Eswatini, supported by King Sopusa. So he's far away. I mean, you could say today that Mahabane and those royal palaces in Swaziland are not far away at the time, but the mode of transportation was too far. So he was basically more than just being perhaps...
He was absent.
Yes. And so he was absent, and the ANC literally collapsed under his leadership. So much so that when he got re-elected, that election cannot be considered to have been free and fair.
Also the conference.
Yeah, itself. the next year where he got re-elected.
Yes. Which would have been 19...
So we were talking about 1933.
Yes.
Yeah. So that cannot be considered to have been free and fair. But he got re-elected. And so and maybe there is a lesson to this, that perhaps when you have started something, it doesn't mean that you should lead it.
I think so. It did so.
I mean, it's a good lesson.
But it did so in 1912.
Yeah,
for so many years. He
was the first TG.
Yes, he was the first TG.
You also, I mean, it looks like he also may have messed up the very funds of the ANC at the time.
Yeah, look, well, the ANC didn't have much money to start with. Okay. It's that he had really significant crisis in his professional life. He couldn't support his family. He was dependent on the Swaziki. So he spent a lot of his time in Swaziland when a lot was going on in South Africa. And one of the significant things in the 30s was Herzog, who was trying to take away the limited franchise from Cape Africans. And so the ANC, this organization that was supposed to lead the opposition to the disenfranchisement,
was absent.
So that is where the All Africa Convention comes from. He succeeds because of smarts.
Yes, in 1930.
In 1936.
36.
Yeah, but by 1935, especially when Herzog introduces what is called the native bills, one that dealt with the issue of land, and two that dealt with the issue of the voting rights of Africans in the main. There were other two, one that concerned the voting rights of coloureds. But when that happens, when matters reached a head in 1935, the ANC is nowhere. That is when DDT Jabavu emerges. Because remember what we said about 1912, there weren't a lot of delegates from
Yes, and Jabavu is not only absent, he's quite not really interested.
Yeah, but by 1935, when their right to vote is threatened, that is when
it comes
a
as the All
significant number of Cape Africans come back into the national politics, as it were. And so because of the weakness of the ANC at the time, they had to form a new organization to fight that, which was called the All Africa
Convention. Yes.
Yeah, with Jabavu as its president. That is where Xuma
became a star.
Became a star because he became the deputy president of the All Africa Convention. It was because of that.
But of course, Mahatu comes back. I mean, Mahabane comes back in 37.
He comes back in
1937.
Yes.
Did Seme contest?
He contested.
And Mahabane defeated him.
Defeated him. And then after the results of the voting had been announced, he stood up and said he was withdrawing from the context.
After defeat.
They said no.
But he died an ANC member.
Yes, but he said that they said when they remember he's the only ANC president who, when he lost the election, the delegates at the conference stood up and sang Nkosi Sikelel' Africa. That's how relieved they were that he had been defeated. The founder of the ANC. So it is an important...
The ANC has been through a lot, Shane.
It is an important detail because sometimes...
the new people.
Yeah, when we sometimes when you are distant from events, sometimes the crucial details that may even explain or enlighten what is going on, sometimes you forget that. But to their credit, by the way, the Mahabane as well as Xuma that we'll talk about later,
Next.
they included him in their executive. After
and that's why in 43 he was part of the group of Africans
committee
that wrote
the African Claims document. The African Claims document.
Prof, I want to, I mean, this is the era we will come to later, when from 1940, where Xuma and Alata revive, and I actually think make the ANC into something it has never been. For instance, establish headquarters
in
Johannesburg for the first time.
Yes.
So that the headquarters are not where the president is.
Yes.
Since 1912.
I mean, when Seme was president, they were in Forecast, of all places.
Yeah. But of all things, a new constitution is written, which
it gives membership even to women.
But also does away with the upper house.
True.
But we'll come back to that.
Yes,
we'll come back to that.
Yeah.
These are the war years. Maybe to conclude this episode, this is the thick of war.
In 1940.
The 1930s.
1939.
1930s is the Great Depression.
Yeah, but also late 1930s to the early 40s, World War II is massive. I mean, there's a lot of Africans that participate in that war.
Unarmed. Carrying no carries.
In the World War II.
As well as World War I.
Yeah, but World War II, there were Africans with guns. Fanon is one of them.
No, but at least from South Africa, yes. But the police of the South
African army
was that.
I do want you to tell us about the impact of the war on African politics and the ANC in mid-30s to early 40s.
You're thinking about who's the enemy. Therefore, in terms of the impact of the war, you have to think about that. The enemy is Hitler. Therefore, you have to take a decision whether you participate.
Do we know if the ANC had a position on the war?
Yeah.
What was the
position? It's there.
On World War
both 1 and 2.
Yeah.
Both 1 and 2.
Just take us through the position of the reading of the ANC of World War II.
We thought we were going to begin there. We thought that's what you've just said.
You want us to begin the next episode? Okay.
Because you've said it.
Okay.
But maybe just about the Great Depression, maybe one little thing, because it contributed to the loss of confidence in the leadership of Pixley, not just by the leadership of the ANC, but perhaps by just the African people generally. Because remember, what was the response of the Herzog government to the Great Depression? Poor whites problem was lost jobs. So the idea was, if there is an unemployed white person and there is employed black person, that the black person must lose the job so that the white person can go. So can you imagine?
And the ANC is not there.
And the ANC is not there.
To fight for them.
The ANC is not there to take up these issues because the president or the ANC, for whatever reason, largely personal, that his personal circumstances were quite dire. He had been struck off the role of attorneys. But the ANC is not there, to fight for. And remember, the ICU is literally has collapsed.
It's gone.
It has collapsed in 1928. From 1927, the ICU has collapsed. So black people literally have no representation in the 1930s. All the way leading up to the war, to the declaration to the start of World War II in 1939.
Yes.
So when Xuma, I know we'll talk about Xuma, when one perhaps thing about the war we can mention, and perhaps we'll get into detail about that, was the war economy in manufacturing for the war.
Yes.
That brought
a
lot of
revitalized
into urban centers. So the ANC that Xuma leads in the 1940s, in a sense, is the ANC that is dealing with completely different circumstances. It is dealing with a significant urban population of Africans that could really be organized. It could truly become an urban movement and protest and all of that. So while, if we judge, and this is my last point, the first 5 presidents of the ANC, I do think that we need to think about the circumstances. How did South Africa look like?
Yes.
Say from 1912 to 1940.
Yes.
Where were these people that they needed to organize and mobilize? How easy was it to mobilize the people?
Were they in concentrated
areas?
Yes,
because you could take a flight now and fly to Cape Town and go to Khayelitsha and find millions of Africans in a single and call a mass meeting. Think if you are Seme, it's either we are in Swaziland or perhaps we are in Amersfoort or Falklands.
Even Johannesburg, as we know it, is a very small city. Yeah.
So you can't find this
smaller than Rustenburg.
It was a completely different context altogether. So the Second World War in many ways changes that. And that is the reason why you could have the 1946 mine workers strike, you could have Mpanza, right?
The
bus boycott of 1945 and all of
1912, I don't think there were buses. There were buses in 1912.
No, it's not. Most people, they are using carriages, horse-drawn carriages.
And 56 women marching to the Union building. So.
You saw that photo of Clark. He's riding a bicycle.
Yes.
Imagine you are president of the ANC, you want to go mobilize people who are riding a bicycle.
But it would have been a status, I suppose, at the time.
At the time. Yeah.
All right, we leave it here for now, and we begin with Xuma. Hopefully we'll carry Xuma from Xuma to Tambo. Yes. Because I think Madiba is more or less the transition president.
Tambo is 30 years.
Tambo alone. But we'll be able, I think, because then ANC is presiding over many organizations now. The League, Women, the Leagues. Later on, it establishes Umkhonto, and then ultimately it has to contend with an international struggle. So it must establish chapters in countries, or a presence in countries, camps.
Yes.
Then it has to have an underground movement.
Yes.
So
For the 4 pillar scheme.
yes, we'll look into that. So let's make a commitment. We're going to be back tomorrow or the next day.
We are going to let me see.
Or tomorrow or the next day.
No, we have
The day
to check
after.
our.
Yeah, now it will have to happen.
Okay.
Yeah, just-
Yeah, yeah, it's
Yeah,
super
yeah.
possible.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, tomorrow, yeah.
We'll see about
We'll
it.
see.
We'll see about it.
We'll see
Yeah.
about
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
Let's say when we have spray, I'm fine. I can
Yeah.
maneuver.
Friday.
Yeah, people would
Friday it's
in the-
okay. Friday-
in the school of the foundation
I'm
have to claim this session as part of the school.
The school,
You
yeah.
can't say they are busy at the school.
Yeah. No.
I'm an exception anyway.
No, it is Friday.
Friday, I'm fine.
But let's
Let's coordinate it.
yeah.
Yeah, I'm fine on Friday. Also.
No, good. Let's do
Thank you so much, Professor.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thank you.
That's it, Bandana Benkos.